Josh, if engineers were superheroes, you would be Hot Air Man.
Look who's talking. Welcome to Engineer versus Designer,
The podcast
for product designers, engineers, and anyone who's tried and failed to get work done on a transatlantic flight. My name is Josh, mechanical engineer of SolidSmack.com.
And my name is Adam, industrial designer of CADJunkie.com.
Each week's show is broken into 3 gluten-packed halves, but this week we have something special.
It was my wife's idea. She thought it would be really cool to ask all of our guests a few common questions and then stitch those together into a special edition whenever we'd gathered enough answers. So for a while now, before starting an interview, we ask every guest on the EvD the same 3 questions.
Number 1, if your primary CAD package was a superhero, which one would it be?
Number 2, what will CAD look like in the years 2020, 2030, or 2050?
And number 3, in your lifetime, do you expect your job to be outsourced to a developing economy?
We asked the questions in that order, intending them to be in order of importance, but once we gathered up all the answers, we were really surprised to find that people had managed to turn even the silliest questions into meaningful insights.
In hindsight, it shouldn't have been a big surprise, given that we've had such amazing guests on EvD.
We really have, and so this week, we'll be talking about superheroes, the future of CAD, and outsourcing, with a lot of help from our special guests of EvDs gone by.
So epic.
Josh Mings of SolidSmack.com. Delight our brains' pleasure receptors with the serotonin of knowledge. What have you got for us this week?
This episode of Engineer vs. Designer is brought to you by Siemens PLM. Double the bang of your engineering investment with synchronous technology. Buy 1 Solid Edge license and get the second one free. Do it now at siemens.com/PLM/BOGO. First, we asked our guest a ridiculous question. If your primary CAD package were a superhero, which one would it be?
But it turned out that people had some really insightful answers.
So, Adam, which superhero would you choose?
I think I'd go with Captain America.
Really?
Because he has this really glossy, clean aesthetic. He's really good at putting on a show, but underneath all that, he's just as vulnerable as everybody else. What about you, Josh?
Hoo-hoo, that's the makings of a Hollywood blockbuster right there, Adam. If my primary CAD tool were a superhero, it would be the Green Lantern, of course! Completely understanding of human plight and equipped with a magic ring. Yes, able to turn anything he wanted to into a foe-defeating weapon or a fabulous manufacturable design.
Okay, so let's hear from EvD special guests Paul McCrory, Evan Brainerd, Ray Kowarski, Rich Hurry, Stuart Brown, Joe Moak, Noel Wilson, and Anna Wood in that order. So, EvD guests, if your primary CAD package were a superhero, which one would it be?
Man, I've got to go with Iron Man. Iron Man is the coolest, right? I mean, he's got the cool edges, he's got the cool design. So my thoughts are that the lines between virtual and real world will continue to blur. So back to the Iron Man, I want that interface, but I want to feel it heavy when I pick it up, the whatchamacallit.
I think probably the Tick. Big and cumbersome, yet functional, powerful, but all of its power rarely ever used.
Yes.
Yeah.
Best answer ever.
Yeah, but I would go further and say that my CAD packages I think of as being like women, not superheroes. But that might be another story.
Ooh, scary.
Yeah, I'm not a big comic book reader, but maybe Spider-Man. Pretty versatile. Yeah, versatile, nimble.
Oh my gosh. Plastic Man.
Plastic Man.
Super flexible, but sometimes can get yourself in trouble. Get tied up in knots.
Luke Cage. Because he fights for the common man and he's street smart and determined.
Yes.
It is, yeah, and I never looked that one up on the internet. That was straight off the top of my head. And that describes SolidWorks as best I can.
I don't know, Aquaman. He's unique, but he's not very cool, and he does some stuff really well. Like, his superpowers are not that awesome, but he's like the only guy that can do it. Like, who can talk to fish? Well, Aquaman, but who needs to talk to fish? I don't know. But when you need to talk to fish, he's your man.
It would be Banana Man, who is he's incredibly powerful, but he's also incredibly ridiculous. You should look him up. Yeah.
Oh, I'm going to go with actually 4 of them, the Fantastic Four. I always thought that they were cool. It always helps to like your software package when you spend a lot of hours on it every week.
So good.
You know, I wish I could say that I'd written that question with the intent of getting such insightful answers, but in reality, I was just looking for a crazy icebreaker and was really surprised to see how good the answers were.
But, it makes a lot of sense. The reason why people love and identify with superheroes is because they have traits that are really enviable and admirable. But then there are those that come with really fatal weaknesses that hold them back. And isn't that pretty much exactly what CAD tools are like?
Definitely. And with great power comes an idiotic UI.
Amen, brother. Adam O'Hearn of CADJunkie.com, there's a glowing blue orb hovering over your head, whispering prophetic words about the future of CAD. Quickly, tell us what it says.
This week's CAD Junkie Q&A is brought to you by
Siemens PLM. Why choose between constraint-driven or history-free modeling when you can have them both? Buy Solid Edge now and get another free. More at siemens.com/PLM/BOGO.
This week, we've compiled answers from many of our previous EvD guests to the same 3 questions, and we've come to our second question. So let's hear from Paul McCrory, Jeremy Regneris, Evan Brainerd, Ray Kowarski, Rich Hurry, Stuart Brown, Joe Moak, and Anna Wood, once again in that order.
So, EvD special guest, what will computer-aided design look like in the year 2020, 2030, or 2050?
I know that the interface right now is becoming, less and less of a factor, right? I mean, I've got my 3D mouse, I've got my Wacom tablet, but it's just going to get more, hopefully, that's what I'm asking, really. I want it to get more and more blurred. I want to be able to get my hands on the part.
Well, have you guys seen what everybody's doing with the Xbox 360 Kinect cameras? And there's folks doing real-time 3D scanning with that. I don't know if you've ever seen the guy who's actually working at his desk, and then it looks like you're watching him on video until he rotates the screen live while he's talking. It's very, very cool technology. Let's call it Iron Man to say what's actually technically possible right now. But I don't think you're that far off from the future of where things could go down the road. But
Man, I don't know. Just a tap into the brain.
That'll work. Yeah. Just plug right in.
Just plug right in. I don't know. I think most of the data will be online. Just an issue of recovering. There's a lot of stuff like the part spec and stuff like that caters to all the OEM components that you can download. I think whole systems and idea-based CAD will be available online. Well, instead of product structures, like let's say you just need a widget and you go online and you find the widget, it might be something like a Boolean search, a series of ideas, and you run a search pattern like that. I need a Wankel, I need a widget, and I need it to come together, and I need it to be 60 cycles. Boom, what do you got? And then that whole CAD, idea can be available for download. That's my future.
Wow, nice. I like it.
I don't know. I would hope it still has, your basic monitor and input devices, and not too crazy with the touch screen and all that. But just a super simplified interface and really solid, reliable CAD would be great. 2050 is when, you'll probably just come out with a USB plug in your ear and just plug it right in, I guess.
I think that you're going to see more sculpture tools. I mean, on my side especially, where you can go through and organically whip out a shape and start making that move around and then deal with the technical side a little bit later in the process than you have to right now, especially for character-driven things. Yeah, the ZBrush, Mudbox, Moto does it too, or you can there and sculpt and stuff like that. I just think that's going to become it will be topology-independent content creation. The problem is that you need the topology on the back end for actually rigging stuff and actually getting shapes out. And, with the game engine, they don't support any of this solid stuff. So I just think that's going to become a bigger part of the process.
Basically, I think it'd be a lot more, work a lot more intuitively than it does now. And
Hope so.
Yes, and a lot of integration between the scanning and the post-processing. And so in effect, I wouldn't be surprised if you could, go out with a decent camera, take some shots of something, and then bring that in and amend it within a CAD program, as opposed to having to go through all of the hoops that you have to go through now. I'm sure it won't be that easy, but I'm sure there'll be more integration that way. A bit more, being able to push and pull as opposed to, using the example that I do with old cars. You could go and take off take a load of shots of an old car, bring it into a CAD package, but the thing won't be symmetrical, and you'll have to go and alter it to go and take account of the things that have happened in the, basically the as-built problem is what you're looking at. That's why I think it'll perhaps be, if you had a perfect subject, it might be that easy to answer your question that way, but that you don't find many perfect subjects.
2015, maybe we'll get more 3D displays. Down the road, I can see instant fabrication, like you just like playing with clay. You got the material right there in front of you, send it off, have it made out of whatever unobtainium is scientists design, develop between now and then. I don't know. But yeah, I just expect more interoperability and more intuitive user interface improvements.
Oh, man. You know what I'm thinking? Like a cross between like a Vulcan mind meld with a holodeck. So you can sit there and the images pop out of your brain and just show up right within the holodeck that you're working on, and kind of walk through them all and everything. I think that would be pretty cool, pretty sweet.
So, Josh, what will computer-aided design look like in the year 2020, 2030, or 2050?
Well, I like all of these, and being able to physically interact with the design, in some cases, that would be amazing. I really think early on we'll see more disciplines coming together. The ability to go through the design process faster within a single interface, sort of a tablet app style, if you will. Beyond that, I think we'll see software design adapt to the model as you input, and beyond that, we'll be able to see physical models generated as we model them, sort of a auto-printed manufacturing or a flash-centered approach to design. The whole design and manufacturing blending together.
I was really intrigued by Evan's answer about Boolean logic search for components, especially after watching those videos for the eye-tracking design software concept we covered a few weeks back. Where basically the software presented you with a group of shapes, and you would select your favorite by looking at the one that you liked the most, and then it would offer you a group of similar shapes, and so on until you had refined the shape to the form that you liked the most. Kind of like going down to the optometrist and getting your eyes checked, and it would just find the optimal design for your taste. Really cool stuff, and I think things are headed that way, especially for standardized components like fasteners, motors, etc. As for industrial design, I definitely see things moving back to where we're able to work with a tightly integrated combination of clay modeling and digital CAD. There will be some kind of way to work with something like CAD and have that form be processed and rationalized on a computer in real time and then output again in physical form almost instantly. A lot of people talked about the Iron Man movie when talking about the future of CAD, and while I think that interactive 3D holograms would definitely exist, the real power is when we have interactive 3D objects that we can actually touch in physical form. So I'm definitely looking forward to seeing whatever that turns out being like.
So you're thinking that by 2050 the laws of physics won't actually exist?
That's exactly it, Josh. Thank you for clarifying.
You are welcome. As you know, today we're reviewing answers from EvD special guests to 3 questions, and we've come to our third and final question.
So we asked our guests a potentially tricky question. We wanted to know if, during their lifetime, they expected their jobs to be outsourced to developing economies.
Now let's hear from Paul McCrory, Evan Brainerd, Ray Kowarski, Rich Hurry, Stuart Brown, Joe Moak, Noel Wilson, and Anna Wood in that order. So, EVD special guests, in your lifetime, do you expect your job to be outsourced to a developing economy?
You know, in many ways, much of the block and tackle is already outsourced. There are very capable people across the globe that do what I do. But what I do is considered to be purely subjective. So just like any art, you can find people to do it for almost nothing or some to do it for a great deal. So what I'm really selling is perception and interpretation. I don't really know how you can outsource that.
I think it probably will, because my job is being outsourced to something else already. I'm not sure what it is, but it's evaporating very quickly into the world of CG. You know, and so whether or not I continue to do more products for the consumer remains to be seen. But certainly with the film industry, it's going in a direction, and at the moment I'm involved in that direction change. But what I used to do 10 years ago is certainly not being done today. So whether or not it goes to another country or not, that's going to be a tough nut to sell, just because I think the creativity still comes out of this country for some reason. I couldn't tell you why that is, but the great ideas seem to be coming from here.
Well, I suppose I've seen some of that happen slightly already with I've trained some people in developing economies, so I don't know if the design and the real engineering side would ever get that far. In our industry, you really have to be kind of passionate about the products we're working on, and it's one thing for somebody to follow instructions, but to be passionate and creative about a product design, it's kind of a different level. So we've definitely seen it happen with manufacturing and somewhat engineering, and I guess design is sort of headed that way too.
Oh, no. I mean, the thing is, artists are artists, and good artists are good artists, right? So, what's going to happen is it's going to be similar to the desktop publishing thing back in the late 80s, early 90s, where, you go from these monolithic machines that cost, $1 billion to run to a little Macintosh that can do desktop publishing. So everybody thinks they can do desktop publishing, and it explodes out, and you end up with, millions of people that have little type shops. And then they realize that you actually have to have talent. And then all those little type shops die. And then you end up with what's left over are the people with talent using the tools. And I think that's what's going to happen with visual effects. Everything explodes. Everybody thinks, hey, we can make a movie. Then you find that all these places explode or implode because they don't have the talent. They don't have the experience to do it. You can't just throw money at the problem. So will it change the industry? Sure. You're going to see more people, more places. It'll change how much things cost. I think, overall things will get more affordable. But I don't think especially at Pixar, we do everything in-house. I'm not really worried about that job going away. I hope.
I don't think it will. And the reason being is, I think a lot of design will go to developing countries, but my particular area, I don't think it will, purely because you have to spend a lot of time actually on the ground multitasking with all different kinds of programs to get and hardware to get what you need sorted out. And the clients demand a lot of interaction face to face. The problem is that a lot of the people don't like computers. They've got no interest in computers, and they perhaps are a dying breed from that point of view. But no, they want to see you face to face and go through it that way. And you need to see the physical object as well, which you can't do from a continent away. Although I have done jobs in America, so I suppose I shouldn't say it like that. But generally speaking, I don't think.
No. The job that I have now, no. And the reason is because the job that I do at the company I'm at now is a job that is done by outsourced people at other companies. And the products that tend to come out of that process are less integrated. It works really good when you're a company that's trying to make new products fast and cheap and make a lot of them. It makes a lot of sense to have the people that are actually making it. Typically, it's the people that are actually doing the manufacturing that are heavily involved in the design. So it's good when you want to make a lot of stuff really fast. But it doesn't work well when you're trying to develop new manufacturing processes and push the limits of manufacturing processes. And again, this will change as the means of production changes. We're talking many years, 10s, 20, 30 years down the road, I hope. But yeah, so the reason that I'm not worried about my immediate job getting outsourced is because I'm kind of in a bit of a niche where I work between design, the industrial design team and the manufacturing team. And my job is basically to enable the vision of the industrial designer.
My take on that is that it already is, and that you have to forgive me for getting deep, but just because our economy has a lot of activity doesn't speak to how fairly it works, and nor to how sustainable our society is, nor to the impact on and reliance upon other economies. So we have a long way to develop, and our self-imposed position of superiority is kind of foolish. And in the end, we are pretty dependent upon the global economy. End of spiel.
You know what? That happened 15 years ago in the automotive industry. When I was working at General Motors, we were training the people that we were going to outsource our stuff to. So it's kind of old news in the engineering world. Companies want to do their engineering work local to their markets. So if they're off in the emerging markets, they're going to do engineering work there, and they're still going to be doing it here in the States too. So got to keep people employed everywhere in the world to be able to buy their products. Been there, done that, got the T-shirt.
Wow, that is heavy stuff.
Seriously.
It's been really interesting to wrestle through this question with so many guests, and there were a lot of other amazing answers we just couldn't fit into the show today. I think it's really interesting that people have really nuanced ways of thinking about this issue. You don't get any flat-out outsourcing is evil, rah-rah-rah stuff that you hear from politicians. In particular, I love that Noel Wilson of catapultdesign.org answered by basically tearing apart our question. We asked if his job would be sent to a, quote, developing economy, and he answered by pointing out that our economy is developing as well, and that we're not as superior as we like to think we are. And I thought that was a really enlightened answer.
Okay, I think Noel was spot on. It depends on your frame of a reference. And in my experience, we often take projects that people native to another country can do, and of course, vice versa. And if you don't work hard at what you do, or even if you do, sometimes your job could be outsourced to that guy sitting across the cubicle from you. So there's that.
Well, friends, sadly, that is all we have time for today. EvD special guests, thank you so much for making this special edition better than we could have possibly imagined with your thoughtful answers. If you'd like to send a Rubbermaid bin full of plastic superhero figurines to EvD HQ, please address those to Adam.
And if you want to send a Rubbermaid bin full of old socks, please address those to Adam as well.
Engineer versus Designer needs your comments. If you know of somebody we should have on the show, share your thoughts on engineerversusdesigner.com. Insults are welcome.
And if you'd like to see Adam strung up by his ankles and shot with rubber bands, as I would, be sure to like us, +1 us, follow us, or whatever else, as social media has also been correlated to public humiliation. Our assistant editor is Simon Martin.
Ross Hartman wrote our theme music.
And remember, without engineers, designers would run amok.
And without designers, engineers would die of boredom.
Snuffleupagus.
Big Bird.